Welcome back to the Just As We Are podcast. I am your host, Katrina Lelly, and let me tell you, this episode is so beautiful and amazing, and it just fills my heart up with such gratitude and love because I am excited to introduce to you guys one of my very dear friends, Jessica Flynn, who is the owner and maker of Flynn Sisters Boutique. We met through a mutual friend, and she is just one of those kindred spirits that I love to sit down and have a conversation with. We talk today about how you don't always get to see the real story, and that oftentimes people only see the glory. Jessica opens up and shares her life story with us. She gets really incredibly vulnerable in where she's been, the things that she's gone through, talks about her own issues with addiction and how life hasn't always looked so pretty. And then she also shares with us how you can turn your passion into your career. You guys, oh my gosh, she makes some of the most beautiful cups that I've ever seen. And before meeting Jessica, I had no idea that cup making was actually a thing. And there's like this whole big movement out there. It's a whole ordeal and I love it. And I love watching her create her art that she's so passionate about. We also dive into celebrating your life right now and looking at the positive side of things and how that doesn't take away from the tragedy that is among us, because that's out there right now. There are people who are saying, you need to not be so positive. Don't be sharing your bright light because there's serious things going on in the world. And we understand that. You can't have light without darkness. You can't have darkness without light. Like both, they go hand in hand. And so I love that we get to have this conversation and talk about what's so freely given to you to give freely back away, being of service. Jessica is a married mother of 3, living the dream in the great Pacific Northwest. She's been making and selling epoxy glitter tumblers successfully for over 2 years now. Recently, Jessica launched a YouTube channel and it has changed her life and skyrocketed her business in ways she could have never imagined. Her favorite part about the business is the mental and spiritual growth that has happened for her. Applying the lessons that she's learned in recovery has been invaluable for business. Her goal every day as a content creator is to inspire others in both their creative business and in life. That just gives me so many chills when she shared that with me, because she's just one of a kind. She is one of the most beautiful people in the world, and I love her so much, and I'm so glad that I get to sit down with my friend and have this conversation and share her story with you guys. This was a big deal, so please take a moment, sit down, tune in, and grab a pen and paper. You're gonna want to write some of this down. Welcome to the Just As We Are podcast. I'm Katrina Lelly, a wife, mom in recovery, certified life and transformation strategist, community cultivator, lover of people, and student of life. Each week, I'll bring you love, inspiration, share the harder things people are afraid to talk about, and guests who are willing to shine their light for you. I give you self-care practices and mindset tips to help you shatter the negative stories you tell yourself. Now is the time to step into the beautiful, loved, whole woman you already are. Let's walk this journey together. Jessica, welcome to the Just As We Are podcast. Thank you so much for being here and being willing to share your story with our audience. And I just love sitting down and chatting with you anyways. You're one of my very favorite people. So I'm excited to maybe I'll get to know you even deeper. And, also for my audience to get to know who you are. And I love your business. You're a kick-ass businesswoman. So I'm just excited that you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. You're one of my favorite people too.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad the feelings reciprocated, or yeah, that's the word. So just started. Tell us about who you are, what you do, a little bit of your story.
Yeah. So I'm a mom of 3. I've been married for 10 years. I live in Bonnie Lake, Washington. I've lived here just about all my life. I've had some hiatus moments, I guess you could call it. I left the state a couple times and moved around a bit. But I've been working my home-based business making tumblers for a little over 2 years now. Somehow managed to turn like my passion and my art into my job, and I'm so grateful. That's about sums it up.
I love that you said that you've been able to turn your passion into your job. Where did this idea of making tumblers come from?
Mm-hmm. So, okay, I was like Christmas, I want to say it was Christmas of 2017. They had come out with the new Cricut machine. It was the Cricut Expression or something, I think, or Cricut Air 2 or whatever it was. And I've had a Cricut for probably 7 years by that point. And I had the old one. And so when the new one came out, it did everything that I wanted my old Cricut to do. So I was just like so excited about it. I was obsessed. And I literally spent like day and night researching this machine because I had to have it. And I had asked for it for Christmas, kind of like assuming I wouldn't get it. So I formulated a plan just in case to make sure I got it. Anyway, I get the Cricut. And I'm looking at all these projects that people are doing with the Cricut on YouTube, and I came across a video of this lady making the glitter tumblers. It was Ashley Lynn Mears's video. She's with the Cup to Ceristas. Shout out to her. And I watched her video probably like several times. It was like a 45-minute long video. I watched it over and over and over, and I was like, I think I could do this. Like, I really, really want to do this. And so I got my tax return. Oh, I did get that Cricut for Christmas. And then I got my tax return and I bought everything I needed to make them in like one day. And I was like, we're doing this. So I made my first cup in January of 2018. I had posted it on my Facebook page, and I sold the second cup that I ever made within 48 hours of posting that. And I've sold every cup that I've made since then for the past 2 years. I think I have like 3 cups that haven't sold that I ended up keeping for myself. And as time went on, I just like, I don't know, I have a tendency to want to be like, I'm very competitive. I want to be the best in my work life, in my regular jobs. I always wanted to just do the best job I ever could. And so that's definitely translated into my business at home. And the rest is history. I mean, and then I got really involved in the community, which we'll probably go into that later on, but that's kind of how it all started. And I am consistently blown away month after month after month at how this has just worked out. I really did not. It was never the plan to be here when we started. I'll tell you that.
Oh my gosh, I love that you just said that. It kind of gave me a little bit of goosebumps and butterflies in my stomach because I just thought like this was totally God's plan for you. And when we follow that, whatever the universe, whatever we call it, when we follow that, like things just go into place, fall into place for us. And it turns out so beautifully. And I was going to say too, if I were you, I'd probably have more than 3 tumblers. I'd have a hard time giving some of them away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't like anything I made for the first year. I hated all of my cups, but now that I'm to a place kind of where I want to be, I have a hard time letting go of a lot of them. But, yeah, it just definitely, I could feel there was a touch of divinity in everything about that story from start to finish. And every decision I made, it felt like God said yes. Everything I wanted to do in this, God said yes. And I knew he was saying yes because there was I've never really had any kind of like adversity in this plan. I mean, there was some bumps, which we'll probably get to later on, but
what were you doing before cups?
Well, I was kind of a stay-at-home mom. My job before I left my work to have my third child, I was an administrator for a wheelchair company. So I was like advocating for people who need DME equipment with Medicare and insurance and all that. And then prior to that, I worked at Comcast selling cable, sucked the life out of me. And then I had a few jobs, little small jobs and stuff before that. Oh, I was level 2 tech support supervisor for like a, security camera place, things like that. Just weird jobs, random jobs.
Weird random jobs. And I'm sure that none of them were they just that? They were just jobs, something to do, something to bring the money in.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I hated it. Like I would start off, I love this job. This is great. And then, like most people, as years go by, you just, this isn't the biz.
Yeah. I like that you shared that too, because I've been that person who's had different jobs, and I always go into it like, oh, this is amazing. This is awesome. Mm-hmm. And when I look back at my track record, I used to be ashamed of that. Like, because I'd bounce from job to job. I didn't have that passion job that I loved. And now I get to do what I love, but like, there's no shame in that whatsoever.
No. And one thing that I learned, after going from so many jobs to jobs, because I also, for a while, I was kind of like I was doing childcare out of my house for a while I was making the cups. And there were, a couple times where I had to move on from those jobs too. And if somebody had finally taught me, it's okay to change your mind in the middle of that and say, like, this is no longer for me. Because like I did have that shame too. It's like, why can't I hold a job down? Well, it's not that I couldn't hold the job down. I never really got fired. It was just that I came to a point where it was no longer serving me and I had to move on to a different thing. And that's just what it was. And it's okay to change your mind about that. Like I only live one time. I'm not going to spend my whole time here being miserable if it just doesn't work for me anymore,
Did you ever think that, or feel like maybe you were chasing something that whole time, like going from job to job, that there was just something you were trying to fill up and just couldn't figure out what that thing was?
Yeah, I mean, it was always about, I'm very money motivated, obviously, so it was future for my family, stability for my family. I was chasing after that. And, if it occurred to me at some point that there was just no upward mobility there, that it wasn't going to provide stability for my family in the long term, then like I felt like I had to kind of move on, or just like if I only got to this position in this company, I would be happy. Or if I only got this kind of accolade, I would be happy. Or if I got this pay grade, I would be happy. And it never worked out. I would get all those things, and then a few months later, it was like the next thing and the next thing, and it was just never. And really, what it was is I wasn't passionate about it. I was just. I don't know how to articulate all that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I totally get it too. It's just, I think it's so important that we at least love what we do. I mean, we don't have to be so passionate about it. I would love for everybody to be more passionate about what they do. One of the things that I think is so sad is how many people go to work to a place that they believe they have to go to work to just to survive, and are not willing to jump out of the comfort zone or step out of the comfort zone and try something else, or be willing to work enough to find that thing that makes them so passionate. Has art always been a passion of yours?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I always tell a story about when I was a kid. Martha Stewart was really big when I was younger. And from the time I was like in elementary school, I was obsessed with Martha Stewart, and I watched her show all the time. And she used to have a magazine, and she had a mail order catalog. And in this mail order catalog, you could order these craft kits. And these were like high-end craft kits. And I was obsessed with these kits. And I would beg my mom to buy me these. I would just spend as much time as I could just doing these Martha Stewart crafts. I had all her books. I had all of her like seasonal release special edition books and things like that. And this was at like 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, as young as I could remember, I was just so obsessed with like high-end crafting and design. And my favorite shows on TV were like Christopher Lowell interior design. Brigham Young University channel had some crafting shows on it that I would watch religiously, or the QVC or HSN when they had crafting shows to sell craft supplies. I would DVR those events because they were like, I was so obsessed with it. So, I mean, I've always been super passionate about crafting and art. When I was in junior high, I was nominated to go to this special art school thing over the summer and just different things like that. So yeah, I mean, as long as I can remember, it's always been at just my heart is there.
That's awesome. I love that. I giggle a little bit with Martha Stewart. I remember I loved her stuff too, but probably not to the extent that you did. I love that so much.
I've always been a craft nerd for sure.
That's awesome. I love that so much. So share with us, I know a little bit of your story, but share with us a little bit more about your story before, where you are now and kind of where you came from.
So let's see here. I mean, born and raised in Washington State. Gosh, it's a lot of story. So it's a heavy story. I was a pretty good kid growing up. I was raised as the only child. And, around the time that I was starting to go into high school, I had just gotten involved in some, pretty bad stuff. I'm definitely, I was drug addict, alcoholic, and, I was kicked out of school several times. I'm a high school dropout. I left home when I was 17, didn't come back for a couple of years, and just went to some like really, really dark places in my life and went to jail, been arrested, car accidents. I mean, a lot of stuff that like I'm not really going to go too far into, but I don't know. Long story short, I'm a drug addict and I'm an alcoholic. And I made a lot of really, really bad choices. And so around the time that I was about 21, I was 19, excuse me, not to 21 yet. Around the time I was 19, I met the man who's now my husband. And when I turned, I think it was 22, we had our first child together. We got married. Life really kind of turned around for me a lot. And I live for my children. And so I got sober. I cleaned my life up. I got my GED. I went to work and really learned how to become a friend among friends and a wife and a mother and a worker among workers, all that stuff. I ended up having a second and third child over this time. And like really for the past 9 years, I've, like I said, lived my life for my kids and lived my life for my family and lived my life for God and really tried to just be the woman that I know I'm meant to be and grow out of that mess that I was in. And so, here we are today. I don't know how much of a story that is, but
yeah, no, you're good. You're good. I love that. And you made me think of, living for your kids, you're having your kids totally transformed your life. And, mine is, somewhat similar. It took a little while, but living for my kids, especially in those days when I couldn't do things for myself, when I couldn't do it for myself, and have my life transform. And along the way, though, have you found a way to kind of just rediscover who you are and take better care of who you are, and understand that, we do need to live for our kids, but there's also a mom there, there's a wife there, there's a Jessica, there's a whole person there too. And how do you navigate that as a mom?
Gosh, that's a $1 million question. So I really struggle because I struggle with that. In the time that I should have been finding myself, I was really involved with the drugs and the alcohol. And so over over 9 years that I've been clean and sober, I've had 3 children. So I have not had time to find myself, and who am I really? And what I do know of myself and what my likes and my dislikes are, and, how I view myself is a snapshot of who I was before drugs and alcohol, kind of, right? I think I have this idea of what I like, but I don't like who I really am. But it's been, now that my kids are kind of the age where they're more independent, it's been this whole kind of rediscovery of the person that I am. What are my morals? What are my values? What are my ethics? What do I stand for? Those are all things I've kind of had the opportunity to rediscover now. And so that's been interesting, because those are all things about myself that I haven't really had time to think about, because you're just going through the motions each day. You're raising kids, you're working, you're taking care of the house, you're taking care of your marriage. And it's like, well, who am I really? I don't know. So that's been really interesting for me, and kind of just building the woman that I know who I want to be, and so the choices that I make today are kind of guided by that.
In the work that you've done so far in finding that, has there been anything that's come up that surprised you in a good way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a lot more conservative than I thought I was. I don't know. I'm a lot more patient and tolerant and loving than I thought that I was. As I get older, I'm a lot more, I'm just a lot more patient, So I guess that's kind of surprised me. I never thought of myself as a very patient person. I guess that would be my answer for that. That's a tough question.
It is a tough question. I think it's patience. I'd like to say that it gets instilled in us when we have kids, but I'm not sure. Or at least it's something we're forced to learn as we become moms.
Yes. Yeah, that too, definitely.
So I love that. What are you working on this year for yourself, for your business? Things right now are crazy. Let's go to that first. Like, things right now are crazy. How are you handling all of this as that mom who works from home and now the kids are home full time? I'm not sure if your husband's still out and about or if he's home with you, but how are you doing during this time?
So at the time that we're recording this is, obviously we're under quarantine for the COVID-19 thing. January 1st, my resolution for my business was to take this as far as I could possibly go. I want to take this beyond a mom at her house crafting. And up until that point, that's kind of what it's been. And I outgrew that. I sold tumblers to my max capacity, right? Like, I could not make or sell any more than I was by January 1st. And so I had to set my sights on something greater, and how can I build this business into something with more potential. Like, I hit my earnings cap, basically. Like, I'm maxed out on the amount of cups and money I can make making cups. So how do we take that further? And so I had been kind of working with some brands and stuff that I'd been partnered with on, like through my work on Instagram. And a couple of them had mentioned, maybe you should start a YouTube channel. And to me, that was like, oh gosh, I don't know. There's a whole lot in this 2 months from January until now that has happened. So anyway, they had mentioned start a YouTube channel. I said, I don't know about that. And then, I kind of had researched it. And once I started researching it, remember when I mentioned the new Cricut machine back in 2017?
Yeah.
I got over that. Okay, well, I got just as obsessive about YouTube in that moment when it was brought to my attention that I should do a YouTube and that I could actually make my craft passion a real career, right? Like with real viable income. I became absolutely obsessed. I lived and breathed YouTube for all hours of the day and night. I didn't sleep for days because I was like, I need to know everything about this. I need to learn everything I can, and I'm going to be the best gosh darn YouTube crafter that you ever seen, right? Like this was so important to me because once again, God is saying yes. I set my question at the beginning of the year was, how could I take this to something greater? God said, here's an idea, and I'm saying yes to you to do it. And then, so I got obsessive about it, man, like probably too obsessive. And so I started up the YouTube channel February 1st, we launched, and we are sitting at 9,500 some odd subscribers in however many days. I don't know, it's April 21st now. And the channel averages about 4,000 to 5,000 views a day.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Thank you. We make probably over 1 million impressions a week with our videos. And so my goal for the channel when we had launched it was, okay, in 6 to 7 months, I want my channel to be monetized either through Google AdSense or maybe we have some brand sponsorships or whatever. And we qualified to monetize the channel in just under 2 months. And we monetized through brand sponsorships and Amazon affiliates within 24 hours. So it was from day one, the channel had been monetized when we weren't even, I hadn't even set my sight on that goal. That was like a 6 to 7 month goal. I figured that would maybe happen for us if we were lucky. And it blew up. And so that's where we're at right now. And so now my plan has totally changed because now I'm like, okay, I smashed that goal. So then where do we go from here? And so I have to kind of reset my intention for the remainder of 2020. I don't really know yet how that's going to look. I have a vague idea. And then we launched our Facebook channel to support the group last week, and we're sitting on 2,200 members, I think, in 1 week. So everything I've asked God for, He has said yes, and He said yes, and He said yes, and so I feel like I've kind of come full circle in this whole like Tumblr journey because remember I told you when I first watched that video, back in 2017, I'd watched that video and I was totally obsessed and I was like, we're going to do this. And now here we are, 2 years later, back to YouTube. I've got my videos now and I'm obsessed. And so I've come through this whole, I don't know, it's just this weird, I could not have written this script, Katrina. If you would have asked me 2 years ago what this was going to be, I had no clue. And then so really what I think it is it's been what I've learned in my recovery program has manifested itself in my business model, unbeknownst to me, right? And so I learned in my recovery program to freely give back what has been given to you. And now in my business, I'm giving back what was so freely given to me 2 years ago. That video that has given me financial freedom today, I want to give that back to other people. And a lot of people would argue, well, why are you going to give away all your secrets for free? You're going to lose all your business. Nay, I say that is not true. You reap what you sow. And it's in giving those gifts to others that the gifts are given back tenfold. And so I just have kept doing that in my business as much as I possibly could. And I've learned to, never be afraid to give those things away because they're going to come back, I hope that makes sense.
It makes so much sense. I love that. And it's been so exciting to kind of witness from afar, a little bit afar, but just come and witness like all of this that is going on for you.
Mm-hmm.
And because it wasn't that long ago, there was some stuff going down and it was not the greatest thing in the world.
Well, all my drama.
Yeah, exactly. But real quick to say, freely give what's given to you. That is something that's been coming up a lot in the people that I'm listening to and I'm being mentored by. And as I start my own business and coaching, and it's like, well, if I get on and share everything, people want to know, why do you get on and do all this free stuff? Well, because what I give is going to be given back to me tenfold in a ways that I don't even understand or know.
Yes.
And in my line of work too, like I can give so much, and there's a difference with actually working with a person, brings a whole different level that you can't just give away anyway. But I love that you shared that. And like, it's so cool to see how fast this has blown up for you. And like I said, like this didn't just come easily. I mean, you've been working at this for a while, and there have been some ups and downs and some moments where I witnessed, like, you're pulling your hair out going, what the hell do I do now?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and for some context here, when I talk about giving away freely, I'm talking about like tutorials, techniques, how to make tumblers, things like that. I'm not giving away free cups, just for those listening at home trying to follow along. Provide some context here. But there, you hear it a lot, is it's like the overnight success took me my whole life, and so there's no even though it's so hard to explain, but like, I didn't work every day of this whole 2 years to get to this point because I didn't know this was the point I was going to get to. But I worked every day making choices that I felt aligned with my God's will. I made choices every day that aligned with the morals and philosophies of who I would like to be. And somehow, some way, it came to this point, and it would appear like an overnight success, but it certainly was not. I mean, like you said, there were so many times when there's a lot of drama in my crafting community, if you will, but I think there's drama in any kind of like hobby community or subculture. And my struggles have been kind of overcoming that. And I'm so grateful that I have the tools that I've learned in my recovery program, because I've been able to carry that over in how I deal with that kind of stuff in my hobby community or my subculture community that I'm involved in. And, so that's kind of how I've navigated that stuff. We had a lot of stuff come up in December with a group that me and my friends were doing. And, that kind of like really took me down. And I really was, I was kind of just like thinking like, I'm kind of done. I don't want to do this anymore. I felt really discouraged, and my heart was really broken at some stuff that had happened. And within my crafting community, and I kind of was just done. And then something kind of clicked in me, like I said, in January, where I was like, I almost wanted to be successful in spite of it. there's a selfish part of me that wants to just shove it in their face and just say, like, despite everything that you tried to do to me, I'm just going to clap back with success for myself. So there is that kind of thing motivating me too, if I'm completely honest,
I love that you shared that, because that motivates probably more people that are willing to actually admit something like that.
Yeah.
And you've always been so real and so raw and open about, this is me and this is who I am. And I also know at the same time, I'm doing the very best I can.
Mm-hmm.
Having that conversation when all that stuff was going down with you in December and talking, like, there is something so beautiful coming out of this. Can't see it now. We don't know what in the world it is, but there's a gift in this somewhere.
Oh, there was. I mean, if I could go back in that moment in December and thank the person who tried to really bring me down. And to provide context there, like, this is somebody who tried to bring me down legally. I could have been fined a lot of money, possibly arrested, and a lot of other things happened in that month. So, I mean, we're talking like somebody was trying to inflict real life consequences on myself and my business. And so I forgot where I was going.
The beauty out of that.
Yeah. So if I could go back to that person and say thank you, I wish that I could, because I feel like had that moment not have happened, I wouldn't have had this fire under my ass to clap back and be the best person I could be. I mean, it really pushed me to legitimize my business in a way that nobody could ever hurt me in that way again. So it was like I armored myself in like, I tried to armor my business in like success basically and legitimizing it. Like, make sure all my ducks are in a row with my taxes, make sure my ducks are in a row with my business licenses and the images that I use and, the brands that I work with and the content that I create and the things that I say and the way that I carry myself in my business. It really pushed me to strengthen those things. And so I'm grateful for that. I really prayed in that moment when I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this. Like, I just asked God, I was like, please show me what the lesson is here. Because I always say that when I'm in struggle, God has me in a workshop. I don't know what the lesson is sometimes. Sometimes I never want to be in that workshop, but I am also grateful because if this year has shown me anything, it was that, God has me in master classes of struggle. And, I've learned to praise the struggle this year, or in 2019, I learned to praise the struggle because there is always something greater for me on the other side of that,
Mm-hmm. I love that you shared that too, because, there is something greater on the other side of the struggle, even amidst the chaos and the trauma that is happening right now. And it's happening on a global scale.
Yes.
I believe that for many of us, there is something on the other side of this. For all of us, actually, there is something on the other side of this. But how we look at that and how we come in and go through this, plays a role on how we come out on the other side. You and I were talking about, I shared about myself leaving a group because they went in and tore this woman down. And, you were saying to me, you were ready to leave that group too. And it's like, you had the biggest month in your business and you feel like you couldn't celebrate that because so many people are just wanting to hate on the positive and people who are looking for the bright side of things right now, for lack of better words.
Right. I mean, there is a lot of hurt and sadness and things going on in the world today, and all the people who have lost their lives through this whole thing is absolutely tragic. I do not want to take anything away from that at all, and I want to honor that because it's tragic and horrific. However, it does no good for me and the people that I serve in my community to trying to be successful in my business and continuing on with my business in the best way that I can is being of service to that tragedy. And sharing the positivity and love and light that I have going on is not it meant in any way to be insensitive. It's my way of being of service to that tragedy, right? If that makes sense. Okay. So somehow, some way, March through this COVID-19 crisis has been my most successful month of my entire career in the whole if you can call my cup business's career or my business. It's been my most successful month. And I think there's a few factors for that, people being at home, they like to craft and things like that. A lot of people are watching my videos. I've gotten a lot of great offers this month with different brands or last month, what have you. And it's hard because I want to celebrate that. I want to be excited about that, but it's hard because it's like, well, you're not supposed to be happy during this time, right? To that, I say this is the time that we should fight really hard to be happy. That is part of being of service to our community, is to be positive. There's a woman who texts me every morning with a gratitude list, and she's been doing that with me for 3 weeks now, I think. And there's just been this shift in my perspective from doing that I'm so grateful for. And I don't think it's any mistake that March was a great month for me. It was like I just kind of doubled down on the gratitude. I doubled down on the positivity. I doubled down on the work that I was doing and serving my community. And in turn, it was really great. I can't handle letting this thing consume me with fear and sadness, and that because I still have a family to raise. I still have kids to take care of. I still have a marriage to grow, and I still have recovery that I have to take care of, right? Like those things don't stop in the midst of a global tragedy. They do not, and so my way of coping with that is to really just, like I said, double down on the things that matter most to me.
Yeah, so beautifully shared. And definitely, those of us, like in my line of work, is to come in and shed light and bring my light. And that does not in any way take away from anybody else's tragedy.
No.
We get to choose, though, how we show up in that tragedy. Do we want to be the fuel on the tragic, dramatic fire that can bring people down, or do we want to bring the light and love that can lift people up and see that there's hope on the other side? There's beauty on the other side, that we're going to get through this. I mean, right. You and I know both very well what darkness can look like.
Yes.
And how deep dark can go. And that's where I don't want to go. And I don't want to see anybody else have to go there either. So our job is to show up in that love and light, which we both have learned through our programs.
Right. Absolutely.
So I love that. I am so glad that we got to sit down and have this conversation and talk and, you share with our community. I love the work you do. I know very little about tumblers, but I think they're so beautiful. I just love you to death. So
I love you too.
Oh, thank you. Is there anything else on your heart to share today?
I can't think of anything really. I mean, my mind moves a million miles an hour. So, I mean, if we open that box, we could be here all day. But, I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk with you today. I'm grateful for my position as an influencer. I'm grateful for my position to have an audience. I will not take that for granted. And I am, my cup overfloweth today. So I'm just all around happy. So
I'm so excited.
If you want to check out my YouTube channel,
yes,
go to youtube.com/C/Flynn Sisters Boutique, or you can Google Flynn Sisters Boutique. We show up all over. So you can find us any which way, and check out, what tumblers are. If you've never heard of a glitter epoxy tumbler, this is my whole life. So
yeah.
That's our work.
And even if you're not that person who's designing tumblers, I still love, you can still go watch your videos on YouTube They're fun to watch. She's got some fun ones with her husband even, and they're just really cool. So follow her YouTube, Instagram. She's all over the place. And thank you so much again, Jessica, for being here.
Yeah, you bet, Katrina. Thanks for having me. I am looking forward to a real hug. I cannot wait to see you.
Me too. Me too. Wait, don't stop listening yet. Just as we are, fam, I so appreciate my listeners. And you know what would be so incredibly awesome? Is if you just took a few moments, headed on over to iTunes, and left me a 5-star review of the show. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with your communities. Tag me at Katrina Lelly. My message, my mission doesn't get out there without your help. Until next time.